Audiobook Academy Biography presents Daniel Burnham. Daniel Burnham, full name Daniel Hudson Burnham, was an American architect and urban planner who was born on September 4, 1846, in Henderson, New York, and died on June 1, 1912, in Heidelberg, Germany. Known for both his effective leadership of the 1893 World's Colombian Exposition and his innovative urban planning theories, he played a key role in the rise of the skyscraper as a modern architectural icon. Life and works. In a family of 7 children, Burnham was the only son. Emanuel Swedenborg, a Swedish physicist and mystic, founded the Church of the New Jerusalem, now the New Church, a maverick Christian religious organization that rejects church hierarchy and stresses service to others. In the month of January 1855, Burnham and his family made the long journey from Massachusetts to the Windy City. He attended Snow's Swedenborgian Academy and then Central High School, where he was known for his leadership and artistic abilities, and where he was a student body president. His parents sent him to the newly formed New Church Theological School in Waltham, Massachusetts, in 1863, after he had graduated from high school. The Reverend Tilly Brown Hayward, a Swedenborgian instructor, helped him prepare for college. W.P.P. Longfellow, an architect and writer, inspired Burnham to pursue a career in architecture through his acquaintance with Hayward. During his college admissions tests at Harvard and Yale, he was unable to write a single word, as he later remembered. In the future, he would get honorary degrees from both universities. William LeBaron-Jenney, a renowned civil engineer and architect, hired Burnham as a draftsman when he returned to Chicago. The finest architect in the city and country was his prediction to his mother in 1868. Despite this, he left Jenney's company to seek his fortune in Nevada, where he tried mining and also ran for the state senate. Both times, he failed miserably, so he returned to Chicago in 1870, determined to make a go of it as an architect. Root and Burnham. Carter, Drake and White's office foreman and talented architect John Wellborn Root first met Burnham in 1872. Root agreed to partner with Burnham a year later when Burnham urged him to start his own business. Root was in charge of the design, while Burnham was in charge of the arrangement of their interiors and the organization of the company. They collaborated frequently, both as friends and as colleagues. When Peter White, Peter's former supervisor, spoke to the Illinois chapter of the American Institute of Architects in 1912, he recalled the following about their professional relationship. Burnham had a great faculty of impressing his clients with the firm's ability to solve any problem that came to it. He would make rapid sketches, which Root afterward elaborated with the greatest care. He inspired confidence in all who came within the range of his positive and powerful personality. Root had the ability to carry to success anything that Burnham offered to do. Burnham and Root rose to prominence as one of the most influential architectural firms in American history. Large in scope, it was well known in the industry. From the beginning of their partnership, it was clear that they had a great deal of potential. Even Louis Sullivan, who was their contemporary and fiercest competitor at the time, was impressed with their first assignment, a residence for Union Stock Yards owner John B. Sherman in 1874. It was 2 events that sparked a boom in Chicago, the Civil War's end and the fire of 1871. Burnham was fast to grasp the needs of commercial clients because he was always thinking big. As a result of a series of daring solutions to the challenges of creating taller structures, Burnham and Root rose to the top of their field. Burnham and Root came up with a novel type of foundation footing for the Montauk Block, 1882–83, perhaps the first skyscraper. The Montauk and future larger, heavier buildings could be built in Chicago's unstable soil thanks to this base, which consisted of a wide slab of concrete braced with iron rails. Burnham and Root also pushed back the traditional Chicago building schedule by working through the winter months. An inflatable tent was used to cover the spot and heaters were positioned inside. A hollow tile subfloor and tiles to surround both beams and columns made the Montauk the first totally fireproof building. An urban scale for commercial structures, the Montauk blocks form and plane surfaces, a trademark of contemporary commercial architecture, were developed by this block's design. Its other early works include the Rookery, finished 1886, the second Rand McNally Building, demolished 1911, the Monadnock Building, completed 1891, and the Masonic Temple, completed 1891. Completed 1892. First, William LeBaron-Jenney's home insurance structure, finished in 1885, employed structural steel members for partial support. The Rookery was constructed 1 year later, and it was the first building in the United States to use this type of structural steel. Rand McNally Building, on the other hand, is considered to be the first steel frame building. The 16-story Monadnock Building, built by Burnham and Root, was the tallest building that could be constructed using traditional methods. With its grand atrium and 21 stories, Burnham and Root's Masonic Temple would be a wonder, the world's tallest office skyscraper by occupied floors. For 18 years, Burnham and Root worked together to develop nearly 300 structures, including railroad stops and warehouses as well as residential and commercial buildings as well as schools and churches. While architects were still in their infancy, Burnham structured his workplace for optimal efficiency and set the stage for subsequent architectural businesses to follow in his footsteps. There was a library of architectural drawing books on the mantel over the fireplace, and a replica of the Venus de Milo was perched on the mantel over the hearth. They only had scheduled meetings with the firm on specific days, as did the tradespeople they dealt with. As an example of how an office layout should look, it included a gym. The Colombian Exposition of 1893. As director of works for the 1893 World's Colombian Exposition, Burnham's outstanding leadership abilities were on full display for the world to see. Burnham and Root were originally hired as consultants, but Burnham left his post as head of construction to take on the role of CEO. Overseeing and completing the construction of more than 150 buildings on more than 600 acres, 240 hectares, of land, Burnham assumed command when Root died unexpectedly in January 1891. Burnham designed the most spectacular World's Fair of the 19th century in less than 2 years while working with some of the most well-known architects and designers in the United States. More than 10,000 personnel worked under his direction. He was in charge of the fair's transportation, sewage, and clean water distribution systems, all of which were overseen by him. Large neoclassical buildings, collectively known as White City, were part of a landscaped complex that left an indelible effect on fairgoers and observers alike. For both Burnham and the contemporary American city, the World's Colombian Exposition was a pivotal moment in the development of both. D. H. Burnham and Company. Burnham reformed his architecture firm as D. H. Burnham & Company after he was allowed to return to it. The architect Charles F. McKim of McKim, Mead & White, a friend of his, used a typical neoclassical language for the fair's court of honor and exemplified it for him in terms of aesthetics. Over the next 2 decades, Burnham's firm designed more than 200 structures, many of which are now considered landmarks in American architecture. As a notable example is the Reliance Building, 1895, designed by Burnham's main architect Charles Atwood, which is widely regarded as a precursor to modernist skyscrapers because of its thin glass and steel tower. In spite of the difficulties, Burnham remained optimistic. For his Ellicott Square building, which occupied a city block and was the largest building of its time, he used 500,000 square feet, 45,000 square meters. New York City's famed Flatiron Building, 1902, Chicago's Field Museum, 1920, Pittsburgh's Frick and Oliver Buildings, 1902 and 1910, respectively, Philadelphia's Wanamaker's, 1909, London's Selfridges, 1909, Chicago's Marshall Field and Company, 1907, and Manhattan's Gimbels, 1912, are all Burnham-designed structures. As city planner, Burnham's work at the exposition had piqued his interest in parks and urban planning. For him, a better urban setting could be a catalyst for constructive social change for those who lived there. As the de facto chairman of a Senate Park Commission, also known as the McMillan Commission, after Michigan's U.S. Senator James McMillan, who was chairman of the Senate Committee on the District of Columbia, Burnham got his first opportunity to put his ideas into reality. It was Burnham's buddy McKim and landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted Jr., son of the famous landscape architect with whom Burnham had worked on the fair, who took on much of the actual work in reimagining and expanding Pierre Charles L'Enfant's original 1791 plan. To symbolize America's role as a rising global power, the team led by Daniel Burnham looked to predecessors in Paris and Rome for inspiration. In addition to a comprehensive park system, their concept for the capital city reimagined the National Mall and its surroundings. A central part of the city's historic heart, Union Station, was envisioned by Burnham to serve as a formal public gateway. The McMillan Plan was widely applauded when it was published. Burnham's planning talents were sought out by other communities as a result of the Progressive era's interest in municipal betterment. Cleveland's Group Plan, designed by Burnham, Arnold W. Bruner, and John M. Carrere, for a new downtown civic center centered on Beaux Arts buildings and a rectangular park, was completed in 1902-03. Burnham designed a far more extensive plan for San Francisco in 1905, under the leadership of prominent private residents established as the Association for the Improvement and Adornment of San Francisco. However, this idea was not implemented after the 1906 earthquake. The practice of Burnham's architectural firm continued to grow in the interim. When the Philippines were annexed by the United States following the Spanish-American War, The federal government enlisted Burnham's services to construct a beautification plan for Manila and a new summer capital, Baguio, in the Luzon Mountains. The old walled Spanish city of Manila was recommended for preservation, as were the recognized city beautiful elements of parks, diagonal streets for traffic efficiency, and a civic center complex, which was formally organized as the core of the community, as his response to this. Burnham and his young partner, Edward Bennett, drew on a combined lifetime of expertise to create their masterpiece, the 1909 Plan of Chicago. Publication of the Commercial Club of Chicago, a private corporate organization that worked closely with Burnham on the study and published the book, is regarded a significant milestone in urban planning history. It viewed the city as a whole, not just a collection of isolated structures, but as a whole that was connected to and interwoven with its surroundings. It spanned 3 states and the shores of Lake Michigan within a 60-mile radius. An ambitious plan that embraced the city's complexity and suggested that solutions could be discovered that would improve infrastructure, alleviate traffic congestion, offer open space and enhance the physical environment for its residents was detailed yet visionary. For Burnham, preserving the lakefront as public space was a crucial issue and a notable achievement of his concept. Members of Burnham's commercial club knew that marketing was essential to gaining the necessary public backing for their ideas. Accordingly, the Plan of Chicago's evocative renderings of what the city may look like were interwoven with images and comprehensive maps and graphs in order to achieve this goal. On July 4, 1909, it was made available to the general public. Leaders in the fields of culture and education were consulted throughout the project's development, and a touring exhibition of the project's drawings was put together for presentation both here in the United States and abroad. Specifically, the Baron-Osman Paris Plan with its wide diagonal roadways and Beaux-Arts principles of balance, axiality, and symmetry are all inspirations for the Chicago Master Plan. After receiving widespread praise at the time, the Plan of Chicago did not adequately accommodate for automobiles. Even at the time, some critics pointed out that it failed to address critical urban social issues such as affordable housing. However, Burnham's draft of the plan includes a stunning social agenda that has not been disclosed. However, Burnham's plan has subsequently been attacked by some who believe that it is too extensive to be implemented in its whole, as well as being inhumane in its scope. Chicago's plan for a beautiful and functional city has, however, inspired a generation of Chicagoans and others. Nothing in Burnham's Chicago concept came to fruition. He died of food sickness on June 1, 1912, while on a trip to Europe and is buried in Chicago's Graceland Cemetery. Daniel Burnham's publications. Burnham published very little of his own work. He and Edward H. Bennett co-authored Chicago's 1909 Plan, which includes particular proposals as well as broader principles regarding city development. The Improvement of the Park System of the District of Columbia, 1902, also known as the Macmillan Report, was written by Daniel Burnham, as was the Group Plan of Public Buildings at Cleveland, 1903, the Report on a Plan for San Francisco, 1905, and the Report on Proposed Improvements at Manila and the Philippines, 1906. 1906. Burnham authored the 2-volume The Final Official Report of the Director of Works of the World's Colombian Exposition in 1893 while serving as the Director of Construction for the World's Colombian Exposition. The Art Institute of Chicago's Burnham Files contain several of his letters. In these, we see a busy man who cared profoundly about his loved ones, was meticulous, and believed in the power of beauty. Legacy. In spite of the criticisms of his Chicago plan, Burnham leaves a lasting impact. Together with Root, he developed one of America's largest and most profitable enterprises. Root chose a partner who was a perfect match for him. With these organizational principles, Burnham altered architecture in the 20th century. While he was not the first to build a skyscraper, his vision for the 1893 World's Colombian Exposition sparked the City Beautiful movement, and he drafted city plans before the profession of urban planning even existed. As a pioneer in his field, Burnham believed that architects owe a duty of care to the society in which they live. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.